Episode 191. You need a life that has nothing to do with your life.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And we're going into an entirely new week. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. I almost made that with one breath, man. So, all new week, totally excited, sweating my ass off. Well, not anymore. It's gotten not significantly cooler, but at least now you're not transpiring just because you're moving from the cool place in the house to the cooler place in the house. And that's a big relief. This weekend was very dramatic thunderstorms, totally cool and motivating light show all through the night, so that I stayed up way too late just, watching the world burn. At least that's the way it seemed. And it was just an awesome and humbling experience to be in nature. We spent pretty much a good part of the night on the porch with the roof over our head, just enjoying this, in awe, this spectacular show that nature had in store for us. And, even in that, it was like, wow, even something as presumably simple as that was just, jaw dropping. So in that sense, I hope your weather has been better, even though it started to be, kind of like a tropical environment in that it rains during the night and the day is like nice. So anyhow, long story short, I'm wasting your motherfucking time. Sorry about that. Speaking of wasting time, housekeeping, thoughts, my own, blah, sharing is caring. You know the drill. If you know someone that could be, even more helped by the episode you're listening to today or one of the previous or future ones, make sure to hit that share button in your podcast app. And they will for sure thank you for, also getting maybe a piece of inspiration from this. Maybe more than you for this episode. Maybe another one was that. Well, whatever. You get the point. So today, I chose a very bizarre title, and let me try and clarify that through this episode. Now, the title is "You Need a Life That Has Nothing to Do with Your Life," and this goes back to the episodes about passion. I think there's 2 or 3 episodes now where I talked about, that the only way you can achieve true greatness in whatever you do is when you're truly and actually passionate about something. And that was, there was a lot of feedback which said, how do I become passionate? And I tried to go into it as much as I possibly could without losing the people, even in addition to the content of the episodes, which I thought were pretty self-explanatory. But that didn't really cut it for some people. There were still inquiries coming in. And so I thought, hey, perhaps something that needs a bit more going into on a personal level. And I tried to answer those questions, and, I had like this email going in there, going out to everyone, and it helped. And, feedback upon feedback, and, good stuff started to happen for a lot of people. However, if you become passionate about a thing, it may be that this passion starts taking over your life. And by that, I mean that, it can kind of evolve into this huge monster that consumes your private life, that consumes your social contacts, that, consumes your entire life, not just, your job. And I'm talking mainly about those people who are freelancers, those people who are, very successful on YouTube and other social media platforms. For them, everything, every picture that they take is a part of their life. And I caught myself, because I'm really interested in photography, and I have been for years. And so for me, it's like I'm walking with my better half, and your famous co-host Stevie, infamous by now, hopefully, and we're on a walk, and I just stop in the middle of a conversation because my visual sense is triggered by, I don't know, whatever the fuck it is, this perfect framing of, I don't know, a cow looking at me with a totally stupid face, or a magnificently romantic sunset, or this bank of fog around our house that's kind of moving very quickly, and I just have to capture the moment. And for me, obviously that gets me an argument or two, but I can't get rid of it. I want to capture this moment. I want to look back at it and say, wow, do you remember how fucking awesome that felt? The temperature, the moisture of the air, the smell, the scent that was there during that moment. And for me, I can immediately go back to that moment, and I can, in rather vivid detail, explain exactly how it felt being there. And obviously, for my better half, it's a pain in the ass when I do that, because we're just having a discussion, or, well, not a discussion, that would be too much. We're talking while we're walking up the street or through the woods or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm torn out of the moment, seemingly. I'm still with her because she's a part of this moment. She is, everyone is, everyone with us. And it's the totality of this moment that just is the passion. So anyhow, for me, this was never a 9-to-5 thing. I never wanted to become a professional photographer. But I was very passionate about it, to a degree where people said, hey, you got the eye, you should make something out of that. And I was like, I don't think so. Not another stone in the bucket, for me to then eventually go totally insane and overboard with all of the shit that I'm doing. But nonetheless, I noticed, and I still notice, that this consumes my life very much. Whenever I walk by something that just is, the perfect framing or the perfect picture, I will take out my phone and take a fucking photo of it. And with that being said, the same can happen, for your avid YouTuber. You produce a video, takes shitloads of time. That's why I don't bother. I don't have the time. So plus, I believe in the concept of podcast being audio, except for if you have very interesting people for an interview, for instance, you want video of that. You want video documentation, because there's a lot of engagement going on between people, and the voice alone just will not suffice. So, but anyhow, that's why, there will never be real video of this podcast. Me blabbing into a microphone is rather uninteresting. Plus, it's going to take away the entire concept, in that you will be looking at me, instead of using the podcast to actually learn and, move you forward. Because what the fuck do you care what I look like, right? It doesn't matter. Don't bother. I'm an ugly dude. I'm old. So, in that sense, passion can be very life consuming, and it becomes that very quickly. And so to detach from that, I think, and that's where the title comes from, you need another life that has nothing to do with your life. So for me, despite the fact that I do this video and I've got my hands under so many skirts, my day is very consumed. But I take these times out of the day to, whatever is going on. I'll walk with Stevie around the quote unquote block. I will do, woodwork or, whatever the fuck needs to be done around the house just to detach. And even there, I will have, thoughts and interferences where I will have, some glorious idea coming up, and I've got my fucking notepad where I write it down, or I've got my AirPods in, and, I'll just say, I'll just tell Siri to take a fucking note or whatever to then journal it later, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you need to be careful of this passion becoming omnipresent, because sooner rather than later, it can actually consume your entire life. And that was, for me, the job, right? I remember one situation where I was in a contract somewhere, and there was something going on, and I had to fly to Europe, back home, and it was very interesting because I was talking to my father at night on the phone, and I said, I don't have time. I've got an appointment. I'll talk to you, tomorrow afternoon. And that was shortly before I boarded the plane. And so, it was an interesting journey. And I came home to my parents' place the next day, as promised. And I talked to him live and in person. And I'll never forget the situation. I was rolling up in a rental on my parents' driveway. And they were in the yard and raking leaves, I think. And my dad just dropped the rake, because, at first he was looking like, what's that car, right? Pulling up here with a foreign plate, etc. And then, I got out and he noticed me and he just dropped the rake. And it was just this fucking great reunion that we had. And I'll never forget that, that look on his face. Anyhow, how did I get there? Right. It was my job and my passion inevitably intertwined, as it is always for me, got to a degree where, I didn't have any real social contacts anymore. It was like your occasional chat with a friend over the phone or Skype or, whatever it was back in the day. And a lot of my relationships deteriorated, not to think of something like a man-woman relationship that was unthinkable, and for me that, never occurred to me. And it was just very interesting how I was living for the job. And now I'm living, for something entirely different. I'm living, for the family. I'm living for, just a nice place to be and a place you don't want to get away from. And I think that's, one of the most important aspects in life you can achieve. So that being said, how do you actually get to a point where you know that your job is consuming everything, and what do you do about it, right? So the job, or the passion, let's call it that. The passion is, when you notice that you're turning long-term friends down for, going to dinner or whatever, just meeting up, hanging out, because you've got a project to finish, or you want this thing done, or you're, reviewing information, or, whatever it is at the end of the day. It's got to do with your passion, and you're forfeiting long-term relationships or other important things in favor of your passion. That's when it's time that you need to think of something that you're also passionate about, which is an obligation, like, for instance, getting a dog. That's changed my life significantly. And then being able to detach from your passion in whatever you're doing. And that's the key to it. For me, a lot of times the things that I do, I don't really detach. So I'm busy with all of the shit that I've got to do all day and all night. But I get those moments when, going on a walk, experiencing nature in, full awareness, with all senses mega tuned. And that's where things really get interesting, because I really get to leave all of the other shit behind. And this may also be, ironically, meeting up with friends, talking about other shit, just to get your mind off of your passion, at least for a moment. And so those things should be regulars. So in that sense, I hope at least that, I was able to give you some insight into this rather mysterious title that I chose. But you definitely need a separate life. Maybe another example in closing is, for instance, going back to episode 40, which is the financial freedom exercise, one of the most listened to episodes of this podcast. And this also goes to say that you need to detach from your normal job, despite the fact that you may be not happy in it, but you need to gain the happiness, for instance, in your side hustle. Now, for more context, you may want to visit that episode 40 and listen to it, because there I basically divided the 24-hour day into 3 segments. Said, okay, 8 hours is your 9 to 5, 8 hours is sleep, and the other 8 are left for hustling, doing a side hustle, building something on the side, which may eventually turn into something profitable. However, if you don't manage to detach from your 9 to 5, and if you need, if you're so sucked into that and you're unable to detach, and you need those 8 hours where you could be hustling to, contemplate and, stupidly watch Netflix or whatever, wasting your time basically to detach. That process should go with a snap of the finger. It's like, okay, I'm out. And that's what you get paid for. You don't get paid for thinking about how you could improve your situation. That's not what you get paid for. You get paid for by the hour, right? And if you're passionate about it, okay. But make sure that the moment you leave the door, your phone is unavailable to, your boss or whatever. You don't check your business emails, because you don't get fucking paid for that. You get paid, when you're passionate about something, and that's actually where where the title of this episode actually came from. So, in that sense, let's wrap this up for today. Hope I was able to transfer some knowledge from my very roller coaster past. And if you have further questions to this or any of the other episodes, please email theverybestpodcastintheworld@gmail.com. And peace out. Take care. I'll be in touch tomorrow, and we'll talk again then.